Mr. Keys. Now, what kind of a first name is that, Mr.?
My mama wanted people to show.
I had decided that football was not a career that I wanted to do for a whole number of years, and so I opened up my own architectural firm in Montreal and in San Francisco. But I found that transition very difficult.
So I got shoved and pushed around until I just say, you know, okay, I can do this game. And the last guy, well, I probably was in the 7th, 8th grade. He pushed me, and he don't remember pushing me anymore after that. So that's what I did, man. And I became.
What happened to Fred Williamson, the strong and confident actor we knew? At 86 years old, his life has taken a sad turn. How is he living now? What challenges does he face?
When you talk about they, the press, are you talking about the American press or worldwide film press?
No, only American press. Worldwide press are more intelligent than that.
Once known as the Hammer for his powerful presence, does he still have the same fighting spirit, or has age taken its toll? Let's look into his journey, struggles, the reality of his life today, and where he is today. Let's find out.
Only kid.
Only kid?
Only kid.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to fight my own way, do my own.
Fred Williamson has led a life that sounds like it came straight out of a movie. He has an inspiring story that starts in Gary, Indiana. When he looks back on his journey, he thinks about how his hometown shaped him. Being in Gary motivated me to achieve things people said I couldn't because I was black, he says.
7th, 8th grade. He pushed me, and he don't remember pushing me anymore after that. So that's what I did, man. And I became kind of an obnoxious guy, too, after having to keep people away from me, challenging me. I don't want to live my whole life as a challenge.
So I never really bought into that. You can't do this because you're black. It came from my family. It came from friends. You can't go over here. You're black. They don't like you. That's exactly where I want to be. I want to go see why they don't like me. They got no reason not to like me just because of the color of my skin. Gary, in its own strange kind of way, gave me a motivation to see what the rest of the world thought of me and to make my way through a world that supposedly don't like me. He laughs on saying, "How can you not like a tall, dark, and handsome guy like the Hammer?" Fred grew up learning how to handle tough situations. Being an only child, he learned early on how to stand up for himself, building a strong, fearless attitude that would become a big part of his identity. When he was still young, Fred's family moved to Chicago. When it came time to choose a college, Fred faced more doubt. He wanted to attend Northwestern University on a sports scholarship. His family and friends worried for him, saying, "You can't go there. There are no black people. They're going to kill you. Why don't you go to Grambling? Go to a black college?" He said, No, I know that lifestyle. I know how to do that. He wanted to go to a place where he can learn how that lifestyle reacts to me, and that's why he chose Northwestern. He was the first black athlete to get a scholarship there. This move changed his life forever. Fred didn't just study, he shined in sports, especially in track and field. Not only was he fast and strong, but he was also a smart student, which made him stand out even more. His combination of brains and brawn was rare, and it's what would make him successful in football and later in movies. But surprisingly, Fred never wanted to be an athlete, but he got into sports because that's where all the girls were. According to him, girls like guys who did sports. Being a football star was never a calling for him, but it came naturally.
And you went to Northwestern not on a football scholarship, but on a track and field scholarship.
Exactly. I was not a football player. I started playing football. First of all, I was a track star only because the girls liked the athletes, right? So I had to pick a sport.
Initially, Fred was all about track and field, but his coaches saw his potential for football and convinced him to try it.
This is my freshman year. Back in the day, freshmen couldn't play football because they figured you weren't physically ready and capable of taking the blows and hits. So freshmen couldn't play football.
Okay, they offered you a car to play for the football team?
Dude, I had the world in a hand.
He has an interesting story about how he got the nickname, the Hammer. When he played college football, he was known as Speedy because of his fast play as a flanker, catching passes like a pro. After being drafted by a professional team, on his first day of practice, he was surprised when they gave him a red shirt. He thought it meant he was special, but the coach told him, "No, son, you're going to play defense." Fred was confused and worried. He didn't know how to play defense and couldn't run backwards.
So I said, okay. After 2 weeks, every day, they're making me look like I never played the game before, like I never even put on a uniform. I'm stumbling, I'm falling down backwards. I can't cover nobody, man. And he comes to me and he says, son, you're disappointed.
He told the coach, I catch passes between my teeth. The coach, Red Hickey, explained that they didn't need receivers. They needed good defensive backs like him. So Fred decided to give it a try, even though he struggled at first. After a few days, he was falling and tripping all over the field. The coach said he was disappointed and warned that if Fred didn't improve, they would have to cut him from the team. Fred thought to himself, there's no way I'm going back home to Gary, Indiana, without being on the team.
Or we're going to cut you and send you home. And I'm saying to myself, man, you gonna send me where? I'm going back to Gary? I'm going back to the ghetto in Chicago? There's no way. I'm the toughest guy in the neighborhood. You ain't gonna send me back no damn where.
Determined, he went back to practice. Once he did, Fred became a force to be reckoned with on the field. He became very aggressive while playing. The coach rushed over, shocked, and said, "What are you doing?" Fred replied, "I covered him." The coach then told him to stop hammering his players and get back into position. That's how Fred Williamson earned the nickname The Hammer for his hard hits. This toughness made him a favorite with fans and helped him build a reputation as a no-nonsense player. His motto was, do unto others before they do unto you, because after they do unto you, you might not be able to do unto them. He never got hurt playing football because he always initiated contact.
We're here with Fred Williamson, a former pro football player for the San Francisco 49ers, the Oakland Raiders, the Kansas City Chiefs, actor, producer, architect. Have I left anything out?
After his NFL career, he retired from pro football after 10 years, and he went to work as an architect. He found out that 9 to 5 and an hour for lunch did not suit his personality, so he started thinking about doing something else. Then he saw a couple of Julia episodes on television and noticed that each week the guest star was with a new boyfriend. So he said, I'm better looking than any of those guys. I'm going to Hollywood. I was in San Francisco then. I drove up to Hollywood and accomplished it in 2 days.
Difficult. So one night I was watching television. I was watching Julia's show, and I said, hey, I can do that. So I went to Hollywood and became Diane Keel's boyfriend on a Julia show. In 1 week, it took me to do that.
Has everything been that easy for you?
After Fred set his sights on Hollywood, he wanted to be more than just another athlete turned actor, so he worked hard to create a unique image for himself. In the 1970s, he became a popular star in action films, especially in a genre known as Blaxploitation films. These movies often featured strong black characters who didn't follow the rules and took matters into their own hands. But don't call his movies Blaxploitation. He doesn't like the term at all. Instead, Williamson believes he was just making action films for everyone. Fred made a big impact when he arrived in Hollywood. He wasn't just another actor. He was someone who changed the game for black men in film. Williamson wasn't interested in the usual roles offered to black actors at the time. He wanted to play characters that were strong, fearless, and smart. This was rare back then, as black actors were often given roles that showed them in a negative light. Williamson didn't accept this. He set out to change how black characters were shown on screen. From the start, Williamson set 3 simple but powerful rules for himself in Hollywood. First, he would never die in a movie. Second, he would always win his fights. Third, if there was a romantic interest, he would be the one to get the girl. These rules were his way of challenging the Hollywood norm, which often didn't allow black characters to have these wins. He knew that by following these rules, he could create a unique place for himself in the industry. One of Fred Williamson's biggest projects was 3 the Hard Way, a movie he starred in alongside Jim Brown and Jim Kelly. This film wasn't just an action movie for him. It was a chance to bring his friends together on screen. Williamson is very proud of working with other black actors who, like him, had strength, character, and something to say beyond being a movie star. This group represented real role models for viewers, and that's something Williamson takes to heart. He says, I stand up for Fred Williamson, because he wants young people to watch his movies and feel inspired, not by the fame or money, but by the strength and motivation they can gain. Money, he says, doesn't last. Character and strength do. In these films, Williamson didn't just play a hero, he was a black hero who fought against racism and corruption. This was something Hollywood hadn't seen much of before. These movies didn't just entertain people. They had messages about serious issues like racism. Williamson's character stood up against injustice, showing that black heroes could be just as powerful and resilient as anyone else.
You made a number of what were called, rather, whether appropriately or not, black exploitation films in the early 70s.
Somebody call them that, yeah.
Williamson's view on the Blaxploitation label is strong. He hates the term because he feels it singles out black films in a negative way. He believes if his films are labeled as black exploitation, then films with white leads, like those starring John Wayne, should also be labeled white exploitation. In his mind, movies shouldn't be judged based on the race of the actors. In America, though, that's often not the case. When he makes a film, people focus on him as a black actor. But in Europe, he's simply seen as an action star. He says, in America, I'm a black actor. In Europe, I'm an action star. He prefers the European view because it's about his talent, not his race.
On that, yeah.
What would you call them?
Fred Williamson, exciting action adventure films, as were the early Burt Reynolds films or the Eastwood films or the Bronson films. I mean, there's no need to place any type of...
Keeping control over his image is important to Williamson, and that's why he took charge both in front of and behind the camera. He knew that in Hollywood, there weren't many roles where black actors could be powerful in lead stories. To create the characters he wanted, he had to take charge of the entire process. He says, to do the films that I wanted to do and create the image and the character that I wanted to do, it was necessary for me to be behind the camera. By writing his own films, choosing the scenes, and deciding who would be in them, Williamson kept his power. In his movies, he doesn't just fight one group of people. He fights anyone who is playing the bad guy, whether they're black, white, or any other race. They can't call my film a black film because I beat up white people, pink people, yellow people. I beat up everybody that is bad, he explains. For Williamson, it's not about race, it's about action and standing up for what's right. He believes that if his movies are about justice and strength, then they should be seen that way, regardless of his race.
When they had seen Fred Williamson play football for years, why not go to a movie and see him do his thing on a screen? But they were intimidated by the press, by black exploitation films, and the newspaper writing up the black people are killing the white people on the screen. But I mean, white people kill white people on the screen too. I mean, who cares, you know?
But by the end of the 1970s, black action movies started to fade away. Have you ever wondered why that happened? Williamson believes it was mostly about the business side of things. When he got into acting, he didn't just want to be in front of the camera. He wanted to understand everything about the film industry. He learned about lighting, camera angles, and how to market and distribute films. While other black filmmakers waited for studios to finance their projects, Williamson took the initiative to learn how to sell his films himself. He went to Cannes, a big film festival, every year since 1975. By his third year, he was working like the big names in the industry.
I mean, I'm a realist. I just don't believe that they were fair, and I don't believe that they still are fair. Because any film that I'm in, even if I'm the only black person in the film, there are 99 white people and one Fred Williamson, they call it a black film. So I don't really think they are fair in evaluating a film with black stars in them.
While Williamson was learning the ropes, many of his colleagues were not. He noticed that they focused only on the American market and didn't know about foreign markets. He said, well, you're trying to make a deal. Somebody screws you royally. You don't do that again. This experience helped him understand the importance of knowing the business. Williamson was not afraid to raise money for his films. Many of his fellow actors were waiting for calls to work, but didn't know how to take charge of their careers. He often hired his friends for projects, but sometimes things didn't go as planned. For example, when he tried to get everyone together for a film called Original Gangsters, he had trouble with the director, Larry Cohen. Williamson had to fire Cohen because he started changing the script in ways Williamson didn't like. When asked if it's harder to get films financed today, Williamson said, well, business is business. He knows that if he puts together a good cast, it should attract investors. But as time went on, many fans started noticing that Fred wasn't appearing in as many movies. Some fans wondered if Hollywood had stopped casting him, especially since he has openly criticized the industry. Fred isn't afraid to speak his mind, and he has talked about problems he sees in Hollywood, especially how it treats black actors. This honesty and openness have led some fans to believe that the entertainment industry might be avoiding him because he's not afraid to speak the truth.
And I was created by Hollywood to demise, to make joke out of all the films that had black stars. They created this philosophy.
Williamson has grown tired of the games and fake behavior often found in Hollywood. Instead of dealing with the stress, he decided to move to Chicago. Williamson says he got fed up with trying to fit into what Hollywood wanted him to be. In his words, "I got tired of trying to prove that you're something that they want you to be." This feeling pushed him to leave the glitz and glamour of California for a simpler life in the Midwest. He likes the people in Chicago because he believes they are more straightforward. He explains, "They're not as good at the BS as they are in California. You can spot the BS here real quick. In Hollywood, people often waste time pretending to be something they are not." Williamson notes that people in the industry are experts at creating an image. They drive fancy cars like Mercedes and Rolls Royces, and they often live in a bubble of luxury. Williamson uses a funny example to illustrate this. A guy is going to talk to you about a $20 million film that he's planning to do, and you look at his clothes and he's got frayed cuffs and wrinkles in the shirt. This is a clear sign to him that someone is not genuine.
Pulling off deals and doing something different and spending a lot of money and doing something unusual, that satisfies his ego. Being in the film doesn't do that for him. He just wanted.
The way people care about their image in Hollywood often affects their personal lives. For Williamson, it has led to 2 marriages. His first marriage was to Jeanette Lavanda from 1960 to 1967. He then married Linda Williamson in 1988, and together they have built a life. He has at least 3 children, but some sources say he has as many as 6. Williamson is also very aware of the dangers of fame. He feels that living in Los Angeles can be risky. He calls it a zoo and believes there are too many stupid people there. Everyone wants a piece of you, and they are always ready to catch you in a moment of weakness. Just waiting for you to trip and fall, he says, describing the paparazzi. Even the smallest mistake can become a big deal, like if he were to spit on the sidewalk. He jokes about how they would make a big story out of it. To protect himself, Williamson avoids places that could lead to trouble. He's careful about the parties he attends. "Somewhere there's a camera," he warns, emphasizing his desire to stay out of any controversial situations. He even refuses to go to a girl's house because he worries she might have hidden cameras. He learned from other celebrities like Jim Brown, who faced trouble because of their choices. Williamson doesn't want to end up in a similar situation.
At one point, you did an interview where you said Oprah doesn't represent blackness.
So then,
One of the boldest things Williamson has done recently is to call out wealthy people in the industry who he believes haven't done enough to support black actors. He even mentioned Oprah Winfrey, saying that despite her huge success and influence, she hasn't done enough to represent and support the black community in Hollywood. This statement stirred up conversation, as Williamson wanted to point out that more support could and should be given by those in powerful positions.
So then, how can anybody be a millionaire and act the way that she does and not share it with people in Chicago? She hasn't done anything for the people in Chicago. She didn't help the people in Chicago. She hasn't done anything then when she was coming up doing her thing. So, to me, that's not blackness, man.
For years, Oprah Winfrey has been a well-known and influential TV personality. Many people look up to her because of her leadership and commitment to important issues. However, Williamson's comments bring attention to a troubling issue. He says Oprah has not supported the black community when it really mattered. He openly stated that she does not represent black people as she should. When we think about her actions, it can be hard to disagree with him. Williamson's critique is not just about the roles that black actors get, it goes deeper. He questions the responsibility of successful black figures in Hollywood. He believes they have a duty to support their community. This is especially true for someone like Oprah, who has the ability to influence and create change. Williamson's background as both an athlete and an actor shapes his views. He has faced many challenges, both in the NFL and in Hollywood. He notices that black people often have to fight for their place in mainly white spaces. He believes that standing up for each other is key to overcoming these barriers. He is not afraid to speak out about these issues, even if it makes him a controversial figure. His approach is clear. He wants to challenge the system and demand better. Other celebrities like rapper 50 Cent and actress Monique also share Williamson's concerns about Oprah. They believe she has not used her platform to help black individuals enough. For instance, 50 Cent criticized Oprah for making a documentary about Russell Simmons and Michael Jackson, while ignoring issues involving white men, like Harvey Weinstein. This raises questions about why certain stories are told and who gets to tell them.
President.
Right.
And as far as entertainment is concerned, I thought Weinstein was bigger than the other guys in entertainment that we see there. Those other guys are just easy victims, that's all.
Right.
This is also seen with the famous musician Toni Braxton. Around the time that she was having financial problems, she made an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And as with most guests who come on Oprah, she expected to be questioned about her current situation at the time. But Braxton says she didn't expect Oprah to be so mean to her, leaving the singer in disbelief. "She was so frickin' mean to me, I was in shock," Braxton remembers. The gorgeous vocalist admitted that she had a lot of respect and love for Oprah prior to the interview, and really wasn't expecting Oprah to come down on her the way that she did. "I couldn't believe it because I loved her so much. I admired her and looked up to her, and she pretty much reprimanded me." You see, Williamson points about Oprah's focus on black men facing allegations is not far from the truth. He wants her to look at the bigger picture and support all people, not just a select few. This conversation is important because it highlights the responsibilities of successful black figures in Hollywood. Their actions can have a big impact on the community. Some admire him for his bravery, while others criticize him for being too confrontational. During a recent interview, Fred Williamson gave some important advice for young creatives. He believes you don't need to have everything figured out right away. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do or how to do it perfectly before you start. The most important thing is to follow your heart. Fred says it's crucial to spend your time on what truly makes you happy. Don't chase after success just because others think it will bring you money. Money isn't everything, and it doesn't always bring happiness. Instead, focus on doing what you love. When you do things that please you, you'll find that the work feels easier and more rewarding. He also wants to remind fans and new followers that he is still working hard. Even though he has received awards and recognition, he feels that his journey is not finished. He doesn't see a Lifetime Achievement Award as a finish line. Instead, he wants to keep pushing himself and explore new opportunities. He believes there's always more to achieve, and that's what keeps him motivated. So if you're a young creative or someone just discovering Fred, remember this: follow your passion, work hard, and don't rush to define your path. It's okay to be unsure. The most important thing is to enjoy what you do and keep striving for your goals. Fred's journey shows us that creativity is a lifelong adventure, not just a destination. Keep going, and you might find joy in unexpected places.